Hey, it's Topher and I'm back. So, as I talked about in my last video, we're going to do a full this is how I paint a landscape video. I'm going to talk as I paint. I'm not going to speed it up. This video is probably going to be, I would love to get this painting done in an hour. So it's probably going to be in a few sections, a few different videos that are going to make this up. But it's someone has asked me to do this, so I'm going to do it. So anyway, what I have here is I have a smaller canvas, just for time's sake, 16 by 20. It's a brand new canvas. I drew out my lines of thirds for composition purposes, and in a landscape, these are the things that I'm thinking about as I'm going. So our horizon line is going to be about a third of the way up, and our points of interest are going to be somewhere in this area or this area. And we're going to try to create, in our composition, we're going to try to create diagonals that look like that. Something that the eye can follow that's going to put us through that direction. So that's where we're going to start, and we're going to keep our color palette's going to be very, very simple. I'm going to do a blue sky and water scene, and but before we do that, we need to put some kind of a tint on our canvas. And when I do a blue sky, I like to have a gray background in the canvas. And the reason for that is because you'll be able to see some of that come through the blue paint. So, get ourselves just a real simple brush here. And we're gonna mix up some, just going for just a medium gray. And we're not going to be fussy about it. We're just going to get it on the canvas. So, and all we're looking for is just a good medium tone, medium value. Right. So, it's really hot here, so I'm going to be using the spray bottle when I paint today. I don't usually have to do that, but I'm going to get just a little bit more white here so that we can get this tone on here. So we just want to cover the canvas. That's all we're looking for. Don't worry about our rules of thirds lines, because we have that drawn out. It's still in our head. We pretty much know where it's going to be, and we can always put them back on if we need to. So there we go. Got a nice even, fairly even gray. We're not too fussy about it. We don't need to be at this point. So there we go. Done. Let me wipe off my palette here, and now we're gonna let that dry. It's hot enough here to where it's not gonna take very long, so when it dries, I'll be back and we'll do some more. Till then, bye. Okay, this is Topher and I'm back. So before we get to the next section, while that other canvas is drying, I put another canvas up here on the easel here, and I want to talk about perspective. The other part of doing a landscape, besides composition, any painting really, is perspective. So let's say that our horizon line is right there, about a third of the way up. Our point of interest is going to be somewhere in here. Remember, that's a third of the way over, or somewhere over here. It's about a third of the way over and a third of the way up. But what we're really painting, and it's important, is this line right here, the horizon line, is the farthest point away from us. So we have to remember that as we're painting. So what we're actually painting, put some perspective lines in here, and these are not exact by any stretch. What we're really painting is this is farthest away, and as you go up, this is closer to us. As you go down, this is closer to us. As you go sideways, this is closer to us right here. And as you go this way, this is closer to us right here. So it's important when you're painting this, or when we're painting this, that we realize that that's the way that the perspective of this painting is going to be set up. So anything that we want back here should be grayer or lighter, and less detail. And anything in the foreground, which the foreground includes this and this up here, needs to be brighter, and that will make it appear that it's closer. So obviously if we drew a stick figure here, and then we drew a stick figure here, you can see what I'm talking about, right? This one's closer, it's bigger. This one's smaller, it's farther away, and it's on the horizon line. So those are just a few basic drawing things that as I'm painting, these are some of the things that I'm thinking about. Some of the things that are going through my mind is I want this illusion, because this is only a flat surface, so this really is a illusion. I want the illusion of this line being the farthest thing away from wherever I'm at. So anyway, so let's keep that in mind. And our other canvas is almost dry, but we're gonna wait just a few more minutes and I'll be right back. Bye. Okay, so we're back. So we have a nice tone canvas. It's like a medium gray, and now we're gonna go to paint it. You'll notice that I turned the canvas up on its end. Our horizon line's still going to be somewhere right here, about the third. So our composition hasn't changed. I only turned it this way just so that when we're putting in the sky and the water, I can pull down rather than pull across. So it's just a personal preference of mine. So it doesn't really matter. You can do it either way. So on our palette, it's going to be real simple. We have phthalo blue, which is almost my favorite blue. Just going to put some on the palette there. We're going to put a little bit of, and I don't know how to say this, diazazine purple. Can you see that? Diazazine purple. It's a real dark purple, and we're going to put some of that on our palette just a little bit, just in case we want to create some darker spots. And because this blue, phthalo blue, is much more of a greener blue than a yellow or it's much more of a greener blue. So instead of putting an opposite color, the complementary color of orange down, which you would use if you were going to use like an aquamarine or a cerulean, I'm going to use a little bit of magenta as my complementary color. And we may or may not even use that on the painting, but if we do, it's a good thing to use to gray out our blue. So we're going to use a little bit of, this is a new paint that I just discovered here. Blick just came out with it. It's their metallic pearl, and it's really I don't understand the name. It's neither metallic nor pearl, but it is one of the best and most opaque whites that I've ever used. So I like to use that in certain circumstances. And then we're also going to put down just a little bit of this regular white, which is turns out to be pretty transparent. So anyway, so with that in mind, we're going to put our gloves on here, and I'm not going to use any brushes for this. I do have a little bit of watercolor paper here, and I'm just going to take a piece of that. This is just 140-pound watercolor paper. I'm just going to tear off a couple of these, and I'm going to throw them in my water bucket so they can soften up. And we may or may not end up using those as an applicator tool. So anyway, so with this in mind, we want darker corners. Remember, the foregrounds need to be darker. So there's the sky, and then the foreground and the water will be darker as well. And remember, we talked about that. That has to do with perspective. So I'm just going to get a little bit of paint on here. We're not really concerned with too much at all right now, except for putting some medium on the canvas. So now we're going to go into our more liquid white, and we're going to put some on here. There we go. And you'll notice I'm intentionally staying away from the horizon line right now, because I want to build up to that. So, and then we're gonna put some water on here. Put just a little bit darker. Putting just a little bit of the purple up in the corner. I want that to be darker. And we'll use just a little bit of it down here as well. So, yeah, we're just going to get everything wet now. It's going to drip all over the place, and we're not worried about it. So, I'm going to pull this sky down. We get all these cool sort of mixtures on the canvas. It's going to be our horizon line right there. Water in the front. Ooh, that's good. That looks really good. So now I'm just going to go into the white here again. And we're going to put it right here. Sit there for a second. So got a pretty good start here. I can tell right now that the horizon line is going to need to be detailed in there a little bit more, but we're not going to be concerned. So this is the watercolor paper I have right here. As you can tell, it's real flimsy. It's almost like cotton. It feels almost like a wet cotton t-shirt. And I just have it wet, and we're just going to drag it over the paint without adding almost any pressure at all. It's just, we're almost just like we're floating the paper on the paint. Okay. We get all these crazy, unique lines that look pretty cool. So back into this just a little bit more. There we go. Rinse this paper off. We got another one here we're going to use. I'm just going to float this over the top of the wet paint. And all of these lines that we're getting on here, they're going to create interest as well as depth. Okay. That looks pretty damn good, actually. It looks interesting. It's got a lot going on. Doesn't have very many hard edges in it, which is good because it's a sky. You don't really want too many hard edges. So we're going to let that sit now. And that's got to dry. So we want that to dry, and then we're going to see if we're going to put, after it dries, then we'll make a decision on whether we're going to put some more layers down, or if we're going to call that good and we're going to get into the doing the actual landscape painting and get away from the sky and the water. So okay, so we're back. Our background has dried. I'm really pleased with it. As you can see right here, we have just a little gray coming through the background. Same with over here on this side, which gives it a real nice feel. And we've got a real nice blending, almost a liquid appearance of the sky and of course the water. So now then we need to, from here, we need to commit to a horizon line. So, and I think, you know, we talked about composition, about going about a third of the way up, about that far. So we're going to go somewhere right around in there. And now remember, the horizon line is the farthest thing away. So we don't want to put a black horizon line in on this one, because, right, we want it to be set in the back. So, and you don't have to go all the way across with the horizon line either. I actually find that it can be more interesting if you don't on a lot of paintings. So we've got a lot of movement going on in this one right back here and right over here. So I'm just going to mix up. I got a little phthalo blue and a little white, a liquid white. And I'm just going to mix up a nice medium tone. I think that's about right. And we're going to, what I do is I put my knife into it. Here, let me grab a different knife. I need a bigger knife. Oh, there we go. Bigger knife. Right out of the water bucket. So, get it dried off here. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the edge of the knife in this paint so that there's only paint on the edge of the knife, on the very edge. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to find where I want my horizon line. I'm going to make sure that it's fairly straight, and I'm going to pick that spot right there. And of course that's crooked, so we're going to just correct it just a little tiny bit here. That looks fairly straight, so not too bad for eyeballing it. You can always measure, but this is a pretty small canvas. On my big 48 by 48 I just did Golden Morning, I actually had it all measured out and everything. So, but so that's our horizon line there. It's nice and subtle, but it's just somewhere for the eye to go, okay, that's where it starts and that's where it stops. That's all we're looking for. So now, generally we paint from the farthest thing away from us forward in a landscape. It's not always the case, but it usually is. So we're going to go with just a little bit more of this darker purple here. And we're going to mix that with some of the phthalo blue, and that's going to give us a nice dark, and it's going to continue to be, I don't like that knife, it's going to continue to be a part of our palette, because that's basically the same colors that we have on the palette now. So not basically, it is. By the way, this is the first time that I've ever painted and talked. That sounds silly, but it's true. So I added just a tiny bit of that white and blue that we had already on the palette into the purple and blue mix, so that it dulled it out just a little bit. And we're going to put some boats right back in here. I like to do, I usually do 3 of them, but you can get carried away. You can do however many that you want. And if you'll notice, I'm not centering them. I'm putting them into our rule of thirds idea. A third there and a third there. That gives me my location of my boats. So now we're going to go down with the reflection. Make some long reflections. There we go. Okay, cool. Switch knives again here. This is one of my favorite knives. You can tell it's just completely used and abused. Oh, with the small end of this, we're just a couple of lines up here for the mass, and just the ever so slight detail. There's no sense to painting all of them. All I want is for the eye to go, oh, that's a sailboat. So there we go. That's that. Now we just need to put the actual boats in themselves. There's a hull. There's a hull. And there's a hull. Go back into these right here, and we're going to paint the reflection of these in here. It's not quite straight. There we go. Now underneath the boats, just to anchor them in the painting, we're going to put just a little bit of a shadow, a water line. There we go. So, actually, on this one over here, I want to go farther over as well. There we go. So, instant boats with reflections. So, and I'll show you what sells this reflection here shortly. We're going to let that all dry though, or get close to it. So, there's our background. We're going to put something over here in the foreground. Remember, we're talking about creating this triangle here, these horizontals to pull your eye into the frame. And I think what we're going to do here, over here, is we're going to do something just a little different. We're going to stick with this dark color right here, and we're going to put, let's see here, put a little bit of land right there. And I'm not going to make it too big here, but, let's see. There we go. Now we have just a little bit of land there. Little points of interest. By the way, this painting is going to be mainly monochromatic, but I guess it's technically not because there's more than one color. but it's going to be a very cool painting. So, meaning that we're not going to put any bright colors in. Oh, there we go. Now, when you want to pull a reflection down in this, for this, you just want to pull down. So we're gonna go ahead and try to match these right here. So that's gonna give us our reflection, and now we're just gonna use just a little tiny piece of this watercolor paper. We're just gonna drag this straight across. Reflection. There we go. You don't want that hard line right there. So now you can do other stuff here as well. You can put some scratch marks in here. This is just a little plastic tool that I use. It's actually for sculpting clay, but it works real good. You can just put a couple of scratch marks in here. Some sense of some small trees or bushes. There we go. And that's that. So now we have a nice triangle. We have a nice diagonal pushing us in, and we've got this line that's coming down here this way. It's a really good composition, and that's what we're looking for. So okay, so that looks good there. So now we're gonna wipe off the palette one more time. We're almost done here. We're gonna wrap this up, and you can spend as much time as you want on the detail. But I've found that simple compositions that are well done, that have a lot of interest, that's what I like about painting. So, okay, so we're gonna go into this white again here. All I'm gonna do now is just make some water lines. So we're just gonna use white for that. You could dull it out and make it just a little bit bluer. In fact, we might do that here. Just a tiny bit. Actually, I think I'm just going to stick with just the white. So, I need to grab a couple different knives. We're going to start in the far back. We're just getting the tip of the knife with just a little tiny bit of paint. We're going to start in the far back, and we're going to put as thin a lines as we can. Because remember, the farthest things are away from you, the smaller they are. So all we want is just a little tiny mark, a little tiny water line. And as you get closer, the water lines are going to be bigger. So watch what happens when you put this water line over the top of that reflection. It pushes it back into the water. Same with this over here. We're going to do just a little bit of a water line here. See how that pushes that back? And we're just going to put just a small one right here. So looks like magic. Only it's not. So, alright, cool. So, I'll put that knife away. We're done with that one. Now, in the very front here, I want to put some bigger water lines, because I want these are obviously closer. So I'm just going to do that with my knife, and see how I just made that look like a little wave breaking, or a little water line there. And we're just going to put one more right here. And there you go. That's it. All done. One landscape painting done. We have a lot of nice depth. We have a very simple composition, but it's very effective. And that's it. So let me shut this off. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and I'll give you a close-up look. And there we go. There's our close-up look. All these great lines. You couldn't paint those in with a brush if you wanted to. And there we go. That's all there is to it. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hey, it's Topher. So, we're just going to wrap this up real quick here. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Subscribe if you care to. As long as you guys keep watching and keep leaving comments and likes and that kind of stuff, I'll keep doing these. So anyway, there you go. If you want to find out some more about myself or see my full portfolio, I'm represented by a number of galleries, both online and brick and mortar. But you can see all of my work at my website, topheressex.com. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And peace.